Hello, welcome to Flooring Models Kit View Time. Today we've got Mach 2's 1/72nd scale VC-10 tanker. Now, okay, this is not going to be my standard review. And there's a couple of very good reasons for that. One, it's a Mach 2 kit, so you have to allow for what it is, okay? And by that we mean a very limited run type kit. So don't expect to find crisp, sprues in there full of fantastic detail and all that, because you're not going to get it. So what I think it would be probably better for me to show you is what we mean by a limited run or a short run kit, okay, and what you can expect in those. Now, I'm not just doing this deliberately because I am building this one very, very soon, because obviously I am, but the thing is, this is just to give you a little bit of a heads up when you're thinking about limited run kits, all right? So really, you've got three particular types of manufacturers out there. You've got your normal, injection molding kit. So we're talking Airfix of this world, your Tamiya's, Hasegawa, things like that, so forth and so on, okay? Then you get your short run type kits, which are mainstream, but perhaps they have a few little things, like Special Hobby are a classic example of it. So when you look at some of their kits and when you look at some of the fly kits, things like that, you've got all the details there, but it might be just a little bit rough and ready. You might not get things like locating pins. It might be mixed media as well, because obviously they can't do fantastic, injection molding like perhaps AAA companies can. So what they do is they do them in resin instead, or you might find some sort of, white metal, things like that in there. So you've got those. Then you've got your very short limited run kits like Mach 2. Now these particular kits tend to be quite specialist as well. You probably won't find the mainstream manufacturers tackling a kit like this. God, I wish they would, but I can't imagine one any day soon. And especially Mach 2 tend to do some very weird and wonderful types of aircraft, and to be honest, there's some very, very good examples of them on the Flooring Models forum where you guys have built them and they look absolutely stunning. But I thought for everybody else that's never seen one, and there's a lot of jokes of them that go around, I thought it'd be interesting to show you what you get. So the first thing you're going to get is almost a box. It's pretty notorious for their kits that they are a little bit, shall we say, It's a very thin box with a piece of a poster stuck to it. So that's it. So again, that gives you an idea of its limited run about it. The box underneath doesn't seem to have any staples whatsoever or anything else like that. Okay, so it just sort of falls around in there. The downside to this is some of the parts do get broken. And again, this is something to be mindful of. You'll see in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. The other thing as well is those which are important is your instructions. All right. So as far as instructions go, we have one sheet of paper like this, which has obviously got some of our smaller parts calling out for them to go on here, and a few little placements for pot and pin your decals on, things like that. When it comes to actual construction, that's it. That's all you actually get. So again, this isn't for the beginner. You're going to need to know what you're doing a little bit, all right? Because obviously going together, the instructions are basically non-existent. To say that they're, So really it's got a couple of call-outs, Christ knows why, and all the rest of it, but that's literally it. So it's not talking anywhere about attaching wings or fuselages or anything else like that. It's just the smaller internal bits. Again, anybody who's tackling these types of kits, you're going to be wanting to have all the basics down, shall we say. So that's it when it comes to that. Decals, again, normally very, very limited. These are almost those home printed ones. You can see we've got a little bit of registry issue going down in here. They're not exactly good solid colour, and they are done on one sheet. This is just like the home decal sheets that you can actually do. Again, they're laser printed. For and against, to be honest, I'm not a fan of laser printing. I prefer inkjet for doing this type of work. But anyway, that's just personal to me. So anyway, that's those like that. Again, from my point of view, we're not even going to use those. We'll just paint our own ones on and we'll do it all, properly and all the rest of it. So the plastic, let's get through to it. First of all, we call it plastic, although it is very loosely. I always say that these kits are more like resin. Okay, so, and this is where sort of the jokes all start to come in. If we just pop to the close-up, you'll get a bit of a feel for this. So as you can see, the parts are, as you see, got huge sink marks in these. The sprues, we often talk about needing gloves to hold them. You can probably see how crude they actually are. Okay, now the actual fuselage itself, as you can see, again, it's got chunks out of it. It's got, you know, as I say, bits of where the moulding's obviously not brilliant. You know, the little lips underneath all the windows, none of them are the same. Okay, so again, you know, you might just want to sand those off, but generally all the detail is here. But it is to say crude is an understatement. The wing section, this thing's got a huge wing section. These will be totally inadequate as well. You can probably see we've got the scarring coming right the way down in here. Again, a little bit of a problem. Okay, so forth and so on. All right. When you flip these over, that's when you also notice the other thing with limited run kits, it's only on one side. Okay, so from this side, there will never be any detail at all. Okay, purely because obviously it's not like a twin fold injection molding. It's almost like vac forming rather than that. And again, on the inside, you can see the crudeness of a lot of these shapes as it runs down in here. But it's all there. Everything you need to start your build is there. Okay, so that's that one. Next up, we'll just pop into the wing sections, which again are their own. You have some of your own little issues and things going on with these, as you can see. So obviously, when you look at the sprue gates, this is something as well to be mindful of. Do not try and cut these because you could crack the plastic thing, whatever it is. Okay, so it's better to come in with a razor saw, cut them all off with a razor saw, and then sand them and blend them and everything else. But as you might notice, I don't know how well you can see it in here, we've got a huge sink mark down in this panel down in here, and again, you can hear it. It's agricultural, I tend to call it. And again, when we look around at some of the close belts, you can see how, yeah, they're there, but only in spirit. It's going to take a little bit of work to get these out. You can see from the gear how basic it is, considering this is the 72nd. Okay, and we've got some of these, so we've got little short mouldings down in here where it hasn't gone right the way to the edges. The other big thing as well, you can see this crack. Okay, when we flip this over, you can see we have a crack running right the way through. So what I'm going to have to do is like reinforce this, come along probably with a little bit of epoxy resin, things like that, just to make sure they're in. But again, on the blind side, you can see how crude some of this is and how much work it's going to actually need to get it together. And again, as you can see by these wheels, and there's the odd bit that's clearly broken off, okay, and how crude some of this is. Okay, yeah, it's not nice. I think that's being generous. Okay, but you can see it's there in spirit. Okay, last up, again, we've got various parts running around the bag, so always be mindful of these parts, probably are very important, so we'll just keep them to one side. And again, on here, you know, it gives you an idea. Again, we've got this scarring running through the mould down in here. You can see how about maybe the mould's had a repair or something else like that, but it's definitely something going on in there. All right, actually this wing isn't too bad compared to the other side. Obviously it's the lower side, but again, we've got various, you know, lumps and bumps and things that have somehow found into the moulds and all of these things. So again, this is your crudest form of injection moulding you're ever going to find. Okay, and again, we've got some seats, you've got some flight yokes, you've got no detail in the wheel wells. Okay, and so yeah, again, this is the tail, if you haven't guessed. Okay, down up there, and again, if we look around in here, and again, like the flight deck door, well, it's got one. Okay, and there we go. And again, when you look on the other side, we've got some very nasty, again, crack running through, so we're just going to have to be a little bit mindful. And again, on this one, we've got another crack coming through, so we just want to be a little bit careful, definitely how we handle these parts. And we can see this crack goes right the way through down into here as well. Okay, so again, we've got to be a little bit careful how we handle all this and how it's done. But I know what you're thinking, why would anybody build anything like this? This is the big thing, it's the only one. Nobody out there makes a 72nd scale VC-10, or not, they do in vac form, but again, vac form, you've got all of this plus some, okay, as in, you know, detailing and stuff like that. The reason why I enjoy doing these, one is the challenge. We've been speaking recently about, obviously, you know, modelers moaning about kits never go together. I guarantee you they will never tackle anything like this, okay? But you've got that certain sense of something when you're tackling a kit like this, you're going in there, like I always say, and I know I go on about it, but it is eyes wide open. I know what I'm going to get. I knew when I bought this kit, and I've paid 85 quid or whatever it was for it. It's rough, very, very rough. Agriculture, I call it. But, and this is where it comes in, strip all these parts off, and that's what we're actually doing in a few weeks' time when we build this one. Flatten off all these surfaces, fix the cracks, fix any short shots that are actually in the mold, things like that, and going through it, all those type of things, okay? And then you're really back to where you'd be with a normal kit, and then you can just put it together as you go. But limited run things like, as I say, tabs. There's no tabs that go together, so it's always better to put your own tabs together, so forth and so on. Reinforcing points as well. Like for instance, my wing section, I can guarantee you, I'm going to have brass rod going right the way through mine. It's going to slide in because there's no way those joints are ever going to hold it. Same probably for the engine. We'll do the same with the tail and all the rest of it, just to reinforce these areas up. But at the end of it, we'll have something. Well, two things. One thing you're going to have is a real sense of achievement that you've put together what is pretty much a ropey kit and nobody else would want to touch it. And secondly, something that nobody else has got. And that's the beautiful thing about these actual kits. So they might seem rough and ready and gnarly and horrible, and why would anybody build them? But there's lots of us out there who actually got a real appreciation for these kits, and appreciation for the manufacturer, like Mach 2, for actually doing this job. So it's got a short shot. You will never hear me complaining about it and going, oh, look, it's got, you know, this wrong with it and that. Because again, I've gone into this kit and I've bought it knowing exactly what you're going to find in the box. We often joke about actually handling these with gloves because they're quite sharp and there's bits that catch you. They are literally that bad. They are as ropey. But again, it's that thing of giving you a great starting point. So for me, I'm going to be building this one literally in about a month's time. We're going to be starting on it, and we're going to do it in flight because I'll be working with the guys from the Tornado SIG, things like that. So we're planning on having some tornadoes hanging off the back of this in flight. So again, it should be really, really nice. And because I'm doing it in flight, I won't be hampered with the thing about the gear, because the gear, again, incredibly much weak spot on this. There's no wheel wells with details or anything else like that. So if you wanted to do it, you're really going to have to scratch build it. But imagine if you had the side cargo door, I know it's on the other side, but open, and you had detailed it, you know, you made a little bit of a diorama for it. It would be an absolute fantastic model, you know, and knowing the amount of work that's gone into it and everything else like that, you'll get a real appreciation from your peers and other modelers that you've tackled a kit like this and absolutely nailed it. And that's what's so good about it. So there we go, a funny type of a review, but a review nevertheless. In case you've never seen a Mach 2 kit, now you know what you're going to let yourself in for. This is their latest release as well, which is the funny thing, because a lot of people might think, is that an old kit? No, it's a brand new release. Literally, it came out last year. Been trying to get hold of one for a few months now. Finally, they came back in stock at one of our suppliers, so I managed to grab one and go through. You can join me and Matt, because Matt's going to build the Argosy, which is another Mach 2 kit, which is another handful. Okay, so we'll be doing that, and I think Nathan might be joining in as well in a month's time or so, and we're all going to be building Mach 2 kits that are a little bit ropey to try and hone our skills of sanding, filling, reinforcing, detailing, upgrading, things like that. These fantastic kits as we make our way through. So there we go, that's the Mach 2 1/72 VC-10.